So, just introduce yourself and your name and your date of birth and your place of birth.
My name is Dorothy Genevieve Andrusiak. My birthday is the 10th of August, 1998, and I'm born in Châteauguay, Quebec.
Okay. Do you have brothers and sisters, and what are their ages?
I have one brother on my father's side who is 19, and I have two sisters on my mother's side. They are 18 and turning 16.
And where are they living now? Tell me something about them.
My brother lives in Montreal, like I do. He has an apartment of his own, and my two sisters, they live in Rockland, Ontario, with their dad. So not we don't have the same father. Um, and one just graduated from high school, and the other one is has a couple of years left. My brother is shares a father with me, so he's Ukrainian as well. But my sisters are not Ukrainian at all, but they are just as Inuit as I am. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Tell me where you went to school, high school, college.
So I mostly grew up in Montreal's West Island, which is an Anglophone place. It's an Anglophone area. And I went to primary school there, but I went to primary school in French. My father was very insistent that French be a part of my education. Um, More specifically, in Quebec, not everyone is entitled to go to English school. Uh, there are certain rules that apply to everyone, but I was entitled to go to English school, and despite that, he decided to send me to French school. And I did 3 years of high school in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. So for those few years, I lived with my mother. And then I came back and I finished high school in Montreal. And then I went to Cégep, which is a kind of college in Quebec between high school and university. I went to Cégep in Montreal as well, and I studied in music. And and then I ended up studying for my job today in and around Montreal.
Okay. And your job today is
I'm a pilot today.
okay. And I Googled you and I saw that you were a singer for quite a while. Right?
I've been flying for Air Inuit for about 4 years now.
Okay. You didn't hear my question. I was confused. So online, I found that there was a Dorothy that is a singer. That's you, right?
Oh yeah, that's me. That's me. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about your singing career. How long did that last, and is it still going?
I don't know if I would call it a career, but music has been a really big part of my life since before education. Um, I grew up singing, I grew up playing piano, and I grew up being in music in musicals. And in high school, I sort of dropped pretty much everything, but my tata insisted that I continue in some form of music. So I chose classical voice at that time. And then when I was graduating high school, Tata kind of gave me a push to keep studying in music. So that's when I decided to go to Cégep in music, and I studied like jazz and pop voice. So something I'd never done before then, but I was sort of sick of classical voice and I didn't want to go study piano. So I studied jazz and pop at Vanier College, which is in a place called Ville Saint Laurent in Montreal. And I did that for 2 years and eventually realized that I still wanted to do something else with my time. And so I let that go. I still do music for fun. I still make little like Ukrainian mashups with my friends, or I like to be creative. There's someone that I work with that I worked on a couple of songs that are aviation related. So we would make these songs for our coworkers, and like it's fun for the people that we work with to share like funny songs that are about planes. So
Okay.
that's the extent of my musical um, presence today.
Hmm. Sounds like fun.
It is fun.
And how did you get into flying?
Um, the short answer is that I always liked practical things, real, tangible things. The longer answer is that for the bit of time that I was in Yellowknife, I was an Army cadet. And often Army cadets and Air cadets will do joint events together, especially up north where there aren't as many people in either group. And that's when I first found out that anybody was starting flight lessons so young, and that was really intriguing to me. But I didn't switch over then. And as time went on, it was always kind of on my mind. And then way later, I had already been studying in music and been doing other things. And Air Inuit had posted two sort of opportunities, one to be a flight attendant and one to be a pilot. And I applied on both, not thinking I would get into either. And I got into the pilot one, and the rest is history.
Hmm. Well, that's fantastic. I did listen to your it was a podcast interview. Yes, when you spoke about the process of becoming a pilot, and so it was very interesting.
Hmm.
So your father is Ukrainian, correct?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. My tata's fully Ukrainian.
and he's from Montreal.
He's born and raised in Toronto.
Okay.
All of his studies were done there, and he eventually set up in Montreal because my mother was from this area, or most of her support system lived in Montreal. So once he set up here, he was sort of tied down to Montreal for a long time, but now he's back in Toronto.
So tell me about your mother. What's her name? Her full name?
My mother's full name is Valerie Mary Inukpuk, and she is currently living in Iqaluit, Nunavut. She is part Inuk and part white on her mother's side. She spent a lot of her life growing up in Inukjuak, so that's a one of the villages in northern Quebec, and the rest of her education was done in Montreal as well. She had a lot of different chapters to her life, but now she works up north. She was working as a nurse in mental health up north for a good chunk of time up until recently.
Hmm. And your brother, tell me a little bit about him, the Ukrainian side of him.
Yeah. So when I was 7, my brother was born. We have the same dad, so that part of him is Ukrainian, just as Ukrainian as me, and he has another mother. Him and I, of all the siblings that I have, he's the one that I grew up the closest with. Um, and everything that's Ukrainian, I share with him. He did eventually end up living with his mother full time, so that it changed after a few years. But for the first main part of our upbringings, those were shared at our tatas, and our language at home was Ukrainian, and we go to Ukrainian school and Ukrainian church and everything.
Amazing. So your father was born in Toronto? No.
Born in Toronto, yeah. His mama and tata came from Ukraine. So my dido was from Ivano-Frankivsk and or Ivano-Frankivsk Oblast, and my baba was now technically, I guess, from Poland because the border changed so many times, but she's from a Ukrainian village in Poland.
Which one do you know?
Rakova. I think that's the name. It's near Sianik.
Oh, yes, my grandfather was from there.
Yeah, it's an area that a lot of people ended up over here.
So your grandparents came when?
Um, Dido sort of during slash end of Second World War, and Baba after the war was over. Dido was the one who had her brought over. They met through a mutual friend, and they were writing letters to each other for a long time. And then she finally took a boat over, and he drove from Toronto to Montreal to pick her up at the port to bring her back over to Toronto.
And he left for any particular reason?
Yeah, he. I actually don't know how much I can talk about this, but conflict with the Soviet Union, essentially.
Well, a lot of our people and parents and grandparents had the same experience.
Yeah, I mean, he was. What I can say is he was between a rock and a hard place, and it was a decision between his values and safety. And when he left, he never went back. I have sort of come to understand that his own tata knew what was really happening and kind of understood the finality of it. But his mama, when he was leaving, his mama maybe thought she would see him again, or wasn't entirely clear on why he was leaving. But he never did go back.
So what year would that be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll have to find that out. Can I write that down and get back to you?
Sure. Do you know how old he would have been?
He would have been 16 or 17.
Oh, that young.
Yeah.
And do you know what year he was born? You would know.
See, if I had that, I would know for sure. But
Yeah, you would know. Right.
no, no. But I'll find out.
So he already knew your mother at that age.
No, he never. No. He met they met through mutual friends way later, but he had never met Baba until they met in person when he picked her up from the port.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, it was her sister was already in Canada and married, and she wanted something similar for my Baba. She wanted to give her the same opportunity, and she came across my Dida, and they switched. They exchanged coordinates and stuff. So no, they never met until then.
That's a fantastic story. So, did you practice a lot of traditional family Ukrainian traditions, rituals?
Yeah, absolutely. The bulk of my life was Ukrainian, so Tato exclusively spoke to me in Ukrainian, partly out of strictness and partly out of honesty. So it just came more naturally to talk to his baby girl in Ukrainian. But also because he wanted me to speak the language. So that was our main language all the time. Saturdays were filled with Ukrainian school in the morning, Ukrainian dance sometimes in between Ukrainian school and Plast, and then there would be Plast in the afternoon, which was every Saturday, and most summers were filled with camps. So I was part of and am part of the Montreal Plast organization.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's some of my happiest memories. Even most recent happiest memories are still with Plast. It's like a huge part of my life. And Sundays were Ukrainian Catholic Church. When I was younger, we would go to Toronto every weekend to do church with Baba and Yudo and to hang out with them. And then we would come back. I realized in hindsight, I realized that my tato did a lot of driving back then. But then later when I was going to Ukrainska Szkola and Plast, we stayed more in Montreal so that I didn't miss those things. But the summers we were still either at Toronto a lot or I was at camp. And then when I got older, I became like a sestrichka at Plast. I was a camp counselor. And we did camps everywhere, Alberta, British Columbia. I did one in Germany. So that was my Ukrainian involvement, which was pretty regular. And otherwise, music. I mean, there's a girl that I grew up with, and I've known her for over 20 years now. The person I've been the closest with for the longest. Her and I have been singing together since forever in Ukrainian. Our favorite thing to sing is Ukrainian folk songs and Ukrainian plast songs. And not only was music a part of my life with her, but at home with Tata. Tata's very musical as well. So Ukrainian music was a huge presence in my everyday life.
Do you have some favorite songs?
Off the top of my head, I would say Ivanko Ivanko.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite that Baba would sing while she fed me cereal in the morning was Tsvete Teren.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, those are my top two, I would say. But there are a few, like, what's the name of it? Yatsana Chesmika, na 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 na. I forget how it's called. Is it called Yatsana Chesmika?
Yeah, Nespokina Rička.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of my favorites that Tato would sing that I wouldn't even want to participate in. I would just always want to listen to him sing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you at Christmas, did you go koledovati?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, with Plast, we would go Робити Koledu every year. We would do the rounds. I would usually do the West Island list because that's where I was. So yeah, caroling was huge every year. And Ukrainian Christmas was huge too. We would never miss Ukrainian Christmas in Toronto. Later on, it was at my chacha's place. But when I was younger, it was always at Baba's. She would always put on the whole 9 yards, the full dinner. And I don't know if you remember this, but there's usually always a hockey game playing on those nights. So we'd always have somewhere hidden away the Leafs were playing on the TV.
You know, I don't remember that. I don't think my parents were really into hockey. I was as a teenager, you know, you had to.
I heard more recently that like having the TV on for Christmas dinner or something was like sacrilegious, but we're now thinking like that was what made Christmas dinners, that the Leafs were playing.
So you grew up in Toronto for part of the time.
I could say not on paper, but in reality, yes, I was in Toronto a lot of the time with Baba and Yudo.
So when you went to camp, where was the camp?
I would go to camp in the Montreal Oselia, which is in the eastern townships of Montreal. It's about an hour and a bit away from Montreal. It's called Baturin.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, so Baturin is where I did most of my camps, but otherwise I've done a couple in Grafton and, like I said, Alberta, BC, Germany.
So you must know quite a few people in Toronto.
You would think, but not as many as you would think. I'm close with a select few.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm close with a select few, but I don't think they're that numerous, no.
Mm-hmm. And who is your chacha?
Oksana Stepchuk.
Okay, I have not met your uncle, right? Stepan?
Roman Stepchuk is her husband.
Oh, Roman, okay.
Yeah. And my tato's name is also Roman, but it's Roman Andrusiak.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so Stefan Stepchuk is related to you.
Who's Stefan
Oh,
Stepchuk?
maybe his name is Roman. Sorry, I have
Must
not.
be Roman.
Okay, I've not actually spoken to him. It was just by email.
That's okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's it. So you currently still belong to Plast.
I do. Yeah, I had sort of stepped away for a while during my studies and work and settling into work. For the first few years of working as a pilot, my schedule was very um, hard to accommodate. So even though it was regular, I was away a lot of the time, and I didn't really have a lot to offer Plus for a couple of years. But recently, I've been getting re-involved in Plus, which has been super fun. I actually just did a little tabi last week on Baturin.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
How long was that?
It was technically 2 nights. I was there for 4 nights, and it was, I don't, are you in Plast?
Yes, I actually was in Baturin once. I lived in Montreal just for a year. And
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun time. So the tabir that I just did was actually on the Novatsky tabir with the oldest kids. I did a Pete tabir, so it's to teach them how to eventually transition to Yunatsky tabir, where they will be full on camping. They won't be in barracks anymore. They'll be in tents, cooking over a fire, and uh, building more stuff. And initially, I was under the impression that all the kids that I would have were going to be 12 for sure, 12 years old. But there were a couple in there that were 10. And so that was a tiny bit more challenging than I was anticipating. But it was a really good time. The first day it rained so much we couldn't even get a fire started. It was impossible, which was pretty devastating for me because the whole point was to have them cook over a fire for the first time. But day two, we got it going.
Oh, yeah, haven't done that in a while. Do you belong to a particular church now?
At the moment, yes and no. I've been more involved with like an Anglophone church just because my friends go there and it's more easily accessible. But even though I don't live in Toronto, I still feel like I'm like that's the church I'm more a part of. Growing up, I we went most often we went to Leeds. Yeah, Leeds. I don't even know what else to call it.
Bukrove. I think it's
Yeah,
Bukrove. Yeah.
yeah. And but now Tata goes to I think it's called Svete Mikolai on is it Queensway?
Queen Street.
Queen Street, yeah. So those are the two main ones over there that I feel affiliated to, if you will.
And when people ask you if you're Ukrainian or Ukrainian Canadian or Inuit, what do you say?
I would say Ukrainian Canadian just because that's the order of involvement that I experienced and I guess also the prominence. But more and more in my adult life, I feel like Inuit culture is a part of my own culture. Um, when I first started working for Air Inuit, I lived up north 2 out of 4 weeks. So most of the time. And being Inuk myself, it was very grounding to live in a village up north. Um, and so I think I've reconnected to those roots of mine. But um, up until then, I would have said Ukrainian Canadian, and now they're sort of on par with each other, I think.
And do you speak Inuit?
I wish. No, I know a couple words, enough to know what a conversation might be about. I used to work as a waitress near the airport in Montreal, and near the airport in Montreal, there are a lot of Inuit. So my Inuktitut for taking orders of food is A1, but anything outside of that, I would say no.
Does your brother consider himself Ukrainian Canadian?
He would. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, I guess it's an opinion to say unfortunately, but he was not as involved with the Ukrainian community as I was. The difference is that when he was growing up, he went back and forth a lot more between our Tata and his mother, whereas I was more based with Tata full time. And so I wasn't having to split weekends with anybody, and I got to have 100% of what the Ukrainian community could offer. Whereas my brother, at best, could have 50%, and even that, he wasn't super on board with because the the circumstances just didn't allow that. So now he's not a part of Plus the way that I am, or Ukrainian music or Ukrainian church. It's very different for him. But I mean, we still speak Ukrainian to each other a lot of the time. If it's me, him, and our Tata, we're still speaking in Ukrainian to each other. Like it's still. So I think in that way he would still consider himself Ukrainian Canadian, um, but maybe not in the same way that I do.
Where is he currently living?
He lives near the mountain of Montreal.
What do you like about the Ukrainian Canadian community?
I like that there's every type of activity. So you can be involved in the Ukrainian Canadian community in some way. There's something for everyone. There's a religious aspect, there's a camping aspect, and in the camping world, there are so many options. There's Plus, there's Sum, there's in Montreal, anyways. There's Camp Ukraina. There are a lot of different camp options, and some are extracurriculars. Um, and then there's history and education for those who want to go to Ukrainian school. Um, there's Malanka for those who don't even speak Ukrainian and just want to celebrate a Ukrainian New Year's. I think that it's very versatile in what it offers.
So, is there anything you'd like to see different?
I think there is. I think that I'll try to put it as best as I can into words. I think that I would like to see a broadening of our definition of what it is to be Ukrainian because, for example, my experience and my Ukrainian or my kind of Ukrainian that I speak is the Ukrainian that was brought over by my Baba and Gita and preserved and passed on and protected. And I cherish that Ukrainian language that we have very, very much. And Ukrainians keep coming from Ukraine to Canada. And especially when I was younger, things have changed a little bit, but there was sort of this looking down on Ukrainian Canadians' version of Ukrainian because it was so starodawne or silske, and these had these kind of negative connotation to them, which I think is ridiculous because if anything, I think it deserves a pat on the back for having been so well preserved. And that is what our grandparents came over here with. There was nothing else to go off of. And in the same way, I think I kind of grew up with this chip on my shoulder about how Ukrainian had evolved. So as an example, saying aeroport instead of Litoviще, for me, it was like, well, why wouldn't we use a word that we already have? Why are we using Anglicisms? And I think people in both groups need a bit more empathy towards each other. I think all of those are Ukrainian, and I don't think we need to be drawing lines in the sand about which one is more Ukrainian. So that's what I would like to see change.
Yeah, there seems to be sometimes like a division between the people who've come and the people who are here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's especially important right now to blur these lines because we think about the bravery that it took for the generation of ancestors that I have that came over here. But now there's a whole new wave with the war. There's a lot of people who were brave enough to come over here and to leave everything behind. And we see that one way. But I think it's important to be nuanced in how we think about stuff, because let's say Ukrainians who have come over here during the war eventually want to go back to Ukraine, which would be fair and make sense. I would hope that the Ukrainians who never left Ukraine during the war would be understanding of the circumstances that brought those who left to leave and then to come back, and to sort of welcome them with an open mind. So I think that it'd be better for everyone to kind of be more accepting of one another.
Yeah, hopefully that would be in the best of all possible worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of family there who stayed and are still there. And
Mm-hmm.
do you still have lots of family there? Your father?
Not lots, but we do have cousins and aunts that are still over there in Ivano-Frankivsk area, and they're holding on.
Have you visited Ukraine?
I have many times. The first time, this is something kind of funny that my tata did. Before going to any school of a certain language, my tata would take me to that country first. So before I went to French school, he took me to France. Before I went to Ukrainian school, he took me to Ukraine. And before I went to English school, which the first time was when I was 17 for college, he took me to England. So the first time that I went to Ukraine was right before Ukrainska Shkola. And since then, I've been several times, sometimes to visit family and other times to participate in a Christian hockey camp that took place over there, where NHL players and other professional hockey players would come teach Ukrainian kids to play hockey for about a week. And they partly needed a translator and partly needed someone who was comfortable in camp settings, which with Plast I was. So I did 2 of those.
Do you play hockey?
No, not at all. My brother grew up playing pretty serious hockey. He was in AAA hockey most of his life. And then he was in what's called sport études over here. I don't know if they have that in Ontario, but it's like where a portion of every day when you go to high school is sports, because you've been accepted to have that be part of your education.
So how old were you the first time you went to Ukraine?
5 or 6.
Oh, what year was that?
2003.
2003. So how old are you? I didn't calculate.
I'm 26 now, turning 27 in a month.
27. So 2003, the first time, what were your impressions?
I liked that they had different flavored chips. They have mushroom flavored Lay's, which is fantastic. We still haven't caught up with them on that. I liked that they had underground malls and restaurants. That's fantastic. I liked that I could speak my home language and be understood by everyone. That was just unreal to me, and I still think that's super cool. And yeah, it felt very, and still does, it feels very relatable, I would say.
And the second time was when you did this hockey.
Oh, the second time, no, I had gone a couple times between being little and the hockey camps I did when I was like 18 or 19. That was way later. In between, I had gone a few times.
So when you were 18, what year was that?
2016, I guess.
So the war had already started in the East.
But that was It was between both wars. It was between Maidan and today's war. It was like there was a pocket of time in there.
Right.
That's when I went.
So Maidan was in 2014, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's when that conflict uh, became a war, essentially, in the
Yeah.
Donbass, right? And where were you then at that time? In Ivano-Frankivsk?
For the camp or for like during for
During your visit? During,
the first one, I know the second one was south of KU in a place I can't remember the name of. It was a small town that had a hockey rink nearby, which was essential. And the first time, I think it was near Ivano-Frankivsk. Is Kalush? Let me just look something up. Where's Kalush?
I think it is near Ivano-Frankivsk. I have not been to Ivano-Frankivsk. I was in the Lviv area,
Hmm.
basically.
Let's see. Yeah, Ivano-Frankivsk. So the first one was Ivano-Frankivsk, and the second one was in Kyiv Oblast.
Is that the camp too you're talking about? The camp was in the hockey camp?
The hockey camp, the first time round was in Kalush, and the second time round was south of KU.
Okay. So how many
Um,
times altogether have you been to Ukraine?
um, Definitely four, if not five times. Yeah, I've been to view more. Oh, I did. I went once as well to do a summer program at the Ukrainian Catholic University in Lviv because my tata was a professor there for a few years in a row during summer to teach Ukrainians French. So I had an in with him at the university, and that's how I ended up there.
And did you do any kind of work at all or translating or?
At the university, no, I came for a good time and I did some like Ukrainska mova, and I ended up bumping into other plastune from the USA over there. It's a very small world once you're over there. And I happened to show up during Ivana Kupala, so there were a lot of festivities happening, and yeah, it was a good time.
Sounds great.
Hmm.
If you have children, I assume you don't have children, but
I don't.
if you have children, would you transmit Ukrainian traditions and language?
I would try my best. I think um, it'll be a hard feat to pull off, but it's definitely what I would want. I think if my tata could pull it off as being the only Ukrainian parent of my two, I think it's doable. My boyfriend is not Ukrainian, but he is supportive of teaching Ukrainian. Um, so if I have his support, I think it can be done, but I would want to for sure.
Well, you're living mostly in Montreal, right, now?
Correct. Yeah.
So it's doable.
It can be done. Yeah.
How old were you in 1991?
How old was I in 1991?
Yes.
Not alive yet. I was born in 1998.
Oh my goodness. I've lived so long I can't calculate. 91 is like, 2 days ago.
Uh-huh.
So you've never known Ukraine not being independent.
No, no, I haven't.
So is it strange when you think about the Soviet era and what your parents lived through?
It's
Your father.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I think it's mind-boggling to think how recently we weren't independent. Um, I think it's great that we're independent, but there's still, even if there weren't a war, I think there's still a long way to go. There's still a lot of Russification, if we can call it that, in Ukraine, that is just not necessary, and there's still a lot of chains I think we gotta break.
So when you were in Kyiv, did you feel still that kind of Russian presence?
Definitely more than in the West, for sure. But I think, not I think, but we know that recently that has changed. People have made an explicit, deliberate effort to cut ties with any kind of Russification that they have. People have actively been reteaching themselves Ukrainian. Um, we've even switched I mean, I was talking about Christmas earlier, like that for me was the 6th and 7th of January. And now everyone is on the bandwagon of the 25th of December. So I think that there are clearer lines being drawn there for sure.
So when was your last trip to Ukraine? What year?
It's been a few years. It was right before the war, so I would let me think. Does 2019 make sense?
Yes, well, it was COVID, almost COVID.
Yeah, right before then. Yeah, I would say 2000, yeah, 2018 or 19. Yeah, somewhere there. 2019.
And what was the reason for your trip at that time?
That was one of the Christian hockey camps south of KU.
And so you're basically asked to be a translator.
Basically, this is another one of those moments where Tato sort of had an in already. He was a huge part of the making of that Tabir in Ukraine. So this is a camp that has happened all over the world. This idea has been done already. And so he knew the people who did this, and he said, hey, how about we do it in Ukraine? And that's how it happened. And since it was him, the first time around, I just kind of came along for fun. Because why not? And then because I met the people at that point, it was easier for me to tag along the second time around.
So explain to me a little bit about the camp and how he managed to bring that about.
The camp essentially hires is a big word. It's all volunteer. So they have an NHL player. In our case, it was David Booth, who played for the Detroit Red Wings. He came over along with other professional hockey players. It can be junior, it can be any kind, anyone who wants to participate. And they come over wherever the camp is happening, in this case in Ukraine. And then we gather a bunch of kids, most of which don't have money to do a camp like this. And it's all fronted for them. And they get to learn alongside people who are fantastic at hockey for about a week. And we eat and sing and pray and play together. And since it's a Christian hockey camp, we do have moments of the day that we talk about faith, our Christian faith. And for those who don't want to participate in that, they don't have to. But pretty much everyone in Ukraine already is Christian, so that wasn't a big deal. And yeah, that's essentially it.
And who funds this?
I think that they raise money on their own. I think probably the NHL subsidizes a bit. I'm not sure exactly who. I think that the people who volunteer their time might be donating as well, like some of these NHL players because these are the NHL players who come are generally Christian as well, because they're some of the people who will talk about their faith and how it contributed to their career. So I'm under the impression that they might be donating as well to make this project possible, but I wouldn't quote me on this. I don't know exactly.
So there are many different Christian religions that participate. So
yeah, it's a non-denominational Christian hockey camp. There's no denomination. Although, obviously, the Ukrainians that are there, they're mostly Catholic or Orthodox, but the camp in and of itself is non-denominational.
So at this point, how involved are you with Ukraine and, the political situation in Ukraine?
Politically, I would say not at all. Um, the only involvement I have now is with Plast, and the kids who come through there now are mostly freshly from Ukraine. So my only political involvement is being a potentially, hopefully, safe haven for those who are coming over now. But otherwise, none.
So they are in Plast, these kids. How old are
Yeah.
they usually?
Uh, of all ages, but the ones that I had last week were between 10 and 12. Out of 13 kids that I had, 10 of them were recently from Ukraine.
Did they enjoy the experience?
They loved it, yeah. It was really fun. I mean, a couple of them already knew what Plus was. Most of them didn't. For most people coming over to Canada from Ukraine now, Plus is kind of a new idea, even though it came from Ukraine. But um, even those who do know what Plast is or think they know what Plast is, I think that they're surprised when they come to Canada because we do. I think it's a lot more about fun when you come over here, and less about being a scout. We still have obviously that element, but it's it's a lot more fun. I mean, we're singing a lot, we're playing a lot of like scavenger hunts, and it's the I think the backdrop is very different, and I think that it's a breath of fresh air for them. And yeah, they love it. They have a really good time.
Are there some children, maybe not in this particular group that you had, but some children who don't speak Ukrainian very well?
Ooh, less and less percentage wise. I think when I just before leaving Plast for a bit for work and school and stuff, I was noticing that the Ukrainian level was dropping. Um, that's a generational thing, and that happens. But it's definitely gone back up, and I think that it's greatly helped those that might have been struggling just prior. All the little kids whose parents were hoping they would catch on to Ukrainian at Tabir, well, they're definitely catching on now because it's like I remember when I was a kid, English was like cool. It was rebellious to speak English at Tabir, and now it's like it's complete. It's a neutral topic because everyone's naturally speaking Ukrainian anyways. At least that was the vibe this year from how overwhelmingly Ukrainian it was.
We did talk a little bit about religion, and you said you attend, is it a Roman Catholic church now more often?
So you like the Ukrainian Catholic Church, yeah, it's a Ukrainian Catholic, but the church that I've recently been spending more time at is another kind of non-denominational thing, which is newer to me, and I haven't officially joined this church or anything. It's just that my friends happen to be there, so I've been going more. But I would still consider myself Ukrainian Catholic for sure.
Is there anything else that, well, I would like to ask a little bit about, well, your mother and her culture and how much you've participated.
Yeah, sure. Um, if I go in chronological order, I would say this. My first year of life, which I don't remember, but my first year of life, I lived in Pavongnatuk, which is an Inuit village on the west coast of the Quebec Inuit. It's called Nunavik, Nunavik. So on the Hudson Bay is a town called Pavongnatuk. That's where I lived my first year of life with my parents. After that, my northern involvement was going up with my tato because he would work up north. He worked in Emerge up north for years and years and years. That's actually how he met my mother. They met up north.
So is this a doctor, I presume?
Yeah, he's a doctor. Yeah. So he met my mother in Inukjuak when he was working at the hospital. And so he kept working up north most of my childhood until my brother asked him not to go up north anymore. And yes, I would travel with him. And it was then that I met my family up north in Inukjuak, my grandfather, my great grandfather, my cousins and aunts. They're all still there. And then when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, so my preteen years, I lived in Yellowknife, which was not the most Inuit part of my life, but I lived with my mother at that time. So um, that northern element was there, but it wasn't really home. It's the Northwest Territories is not aren't my roots. And then the next time that it was relevant for me was when I started my pilot license, which I did in Kuujjuaq in Nunavik. I started it there, and I lived there for 2 or 3 months during the summer. And that's when I got my intro to what it would be like at Air Inuit and recreating new Inuit friendships. And now one of my best friends is Inuka that I met through the flight program. And yeah.
So altogether, how much time do you think, sort of percentage-wise, you've spent with your mother and her culture?
Oh my goodness. Well, with my mother, 3 years, essentially. But
In Yellowknife, is that right?
yeah, that was in Yellowknife. But I think with Northern culture, everything together, maybe 6 or 7 years of my life, but it's gone up recently because that's where I work all the time.
So you work mostly in Nunavut,
In Nunavik, so northern Quebec.
northern Quebec.
The other time this was prominent for me was when I first started working for Air Inuit, where I would live for 2 weeks at a time up north, not a Ukrainian village, in an Inuit village. And the main place that I actually spent time was Pavongnatuk, which was also my first year of life. So it was a very full circle moment to be working there full time because that was sort of my origin story too.
Are there any aspects of the Inuit culture that celebrate and preserve?
That's a good question. Um, there are lots of things. I would say country food is a big one. So what I like doing, one of the things I'm the proudest of that I've learned up north is how to fillet an Arctic char. It's still something that I like doing now. If someone offers me an Arctic char, I'm excited to fillet it and offer it to people. So that's one thing. I wish I could throat sing, but I can't. If I could celebrate it by doing it, I would. But I commend anyone who can. It's so much fun to watch people throat sing. I haven't sewn a parka yet, but I've been trying to get better at sewing. My best friend, Melina, she's a phenomenal seamstress. She's made impeccable parkas for me. But she's also helped me make a t-shirt quilt recently. And so my two sort of cultures have reconnected in this way. I had been saving up camp t-shirts my whole life from Tabir, like from Plast.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks to her amazing seamstress skills and the collection of t-shirts, we made a t-shirt quilt.
Fun.
It's not a celebration of Inuit culture, but it's thanks to this inner girl who's celebrating Inuit culture that I was able to do this. But in a more serious way, my hope is in the next couple of years to go back to school, specifically in Nunavik Studies, NS for short, which is something that the goal is to submit all of your essays in Inuktitut. And they teach you about history and art and how to build a kayak and how to sew parkas and pretty much the foundation of Inuit culture, but through an academic institution. And so, yeah, my hope would be to do that at least for fun, and if not just for fun, then to be able to more relevantly contribute to the North.
Very good. That's wonderful. I can't imagine how different that life must be.
It is and it isn't. I think Inuit and Ukrainians have a lot of cultural similarities. I can offer one example, which is um, the the assumption that what's yours is mine. Itseye Lyubo. So I'll give an example. When you go to your Baba's place and she's force feeding you food that she's made, it is an absolute necessity that you eat it. It's almost insulting if you don't. Well, in the same way, Inuit culture, it's almost rude to ask for something because it is implied that you can have it because we love each other. So if the best example I can give is when I first started living with Melina when we were studying together, she had bought a few ginger ales, which, by the way, is the only pop my Baba would ever have in the house was ginger ale. There's no other pop. And so I open the fridge and I say, "Oh, do you mind if I have one of your ginger ales?" And she said, "You can't have one now because you asked." And so that's, I think, something that Ukrainians and Inuit share is this presumption that we're sharing things because, we're in this together.
And she was totally serious.
100%. Yeah.
Did you get the ginger ale?
I ended up getting the ginger ale, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if Ukrainians of my generation or say Bojana's children, because I don't have children, have the same custom.
Of taking and assuming it's yours?
Well, yeah, it's hard to explain. I don't even understand so much. I mean, yes, my mother wasn't that insistent that you have to eat. You have to, eat more because it's polite,
Right.
or make this big, huge feast. Of course, she always did make a big, huge feast, but maybe not to the extent that they do in Ukraine.
Right.
So I don't know. Is that how you perceive the similarity?
I would, yeah. Up north, another example is like if someone goes out hunting, whatever they come back with, it will be shared with everyone. Because the next time someone else goes out hunting, it'll be shared with the first person, and it goes around and around like this. I think it's very communal in that way. Even though the pretext isn't the same, Ukrainians aren't running out hunting or picking berries in that way. I think the sentiment is the same that you have my back now, and I'll have your back later,
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say about the situation in Ukraine today or your experience? I mean, you must have wonderful experiences as a pilot. No, this isn't the aim of this interview, but I would love to hear some of your experiences. Just being a young woman is probably a bit of a shock to many. I don't know if that.
It's better now. It's for sure better now than it was.
It's a lot of responsibility.
I guess it is, yeah. For me, it's just, you go and you do your job the way anybody does. It doesn't feel any heavier than any other job would be. I think I would take any job just as seriously as I take this one. Um, but yeah, you're right. It's a big responsibility. Um, I don't know what I would like to add. I think I covered what was important to me.
So when you fly for Air Inuit, where do you usually fly? Which,
So things recently for me have changed. My job position has changed. Now I'm based out of Montreal, which means that I fly out of Montreal, and I'm lucky enough to come back the same day. So let's say I go from Montreal to Kuujjuaq, northern Quebec. I offload everything there is to offload, and then I come back to Montreal the same day, which is a huge perk because I get to stay in my bed every day. I'm not living out of a suitcase. I don't go through jet lag. I fly with people that I'm familiar with, that I build relationships with, that I'm comfortable with. Um, so I have, in that way, my conditions are probably significantly better than the average Canadian pilot's conditions are. And I also, at the same time, I get to work for a company that's so personal to me. Um, I don't think most pilots can say the same. It's it's a lot less personal than other companies, just out of sheer numbers. But not only is it a more tight knit community at Air Inuit because there are less of us, but because it is dear to me. I mean, it's thanks to Air Inuit that I was able to complete my license um, and then have a job lined up after and have it be so personal to who I am and to be able to bring me closer to that side of my roots.
now just to get back a little bit to Ukrainian customs, because
Yeah.
we didn't get into it. Are there any particular jokes or stories or family traditions that you remember as, being
I
really?
thought about this, yeah. I think the thing that stands out to me the most, as much as there are made up poslovici that my family have, that we use that would take days to just describe the context of. I think the thing that stands out the most to me is music. Um, my tata sang me to sleep almost every day, if not every day. Um, Ukrainian songs he had written, um, any kind of song we would sing in harmony. And then when my brother came along, he would sing with us too. And even now, even we don't live together, but anytime I go to Toronto or he comes here, he grabs the guitar off the wall and starts playing. Or if I'm over there, like if he's not already playing piano, I'll beg him to play the piano. He's a great piano player. He's been a choir conductor before. He writes music, all kinds of music. He played viola in high school. So music was a huge part, a huge centerpiece for our family specifically, and still is. And like not to put anyone too high up on a pedestal, but like proper music with proper harmonies and the standard was there. So yeah, I was really lucky to have that. And I think one of the nicest things my tata ever did for me, and it still involved some kind of music, was there was a time that I had trouble falling asleep, but we weren't living together anymore. I was an adult. And he offered to call me, and I would put him on speakerphone, and he would play until I fell asleep, and then he would play much, much more so that the stopping of music didn't wake me up. And he would hang up once he was sure I was asleep. And the next morning, I checked my phone, and the phone call had lasted over an hour. But I had long been asleep.
That's fantastic. He wrote music too, you said.
Yeah, he writes music still to this day.
What kind of music?
All kinds. The most recent thing he's been writing is like a four-part harmony choir Ukrainian thing. Otherwise, he writes like folk songs of his own. He writes stuff on the piano. He writes stuff on the guitar. The words that he writes are, I think they're great. I think he writes very good words. Um,
And where are they performed?
Nowhere, only at home.
Only at home. That's
A tragedy.
really, yeah, I couldn't think of the word.
I know.
Well, we must get him working with all these organizations.
Yeah, we should. We we gotta gang up on him.
Yeah. I don't know if you know Wesolowski's music.
No,
You don't know Bogdan Wesolowski?
no, I'll write it down.
Oh, he was a musician and a composer, and in the 30s, a lot of retro. There's a museum in his name in Lviv.
Oh,
He wrote tangos and cha-chas and waltzes, not waltzes.
well then maybe I do. I'm bad with names. I'm sure that if I look him up, I'll find something I know.
There's Namaluj Meninich is one song. Do you know Namaluj Meninich? Yeah.
No, so maybe I don't know any of his stuff. That sounds like it might be popular, but I don't know it.
Well, if you Google, there's lots of his music online.
Okay.
Anyway, he was my uncle, so
Wow.
yeah, I very much value. And he was living in Montreal actually, and he ended up working for Radio Free Europe also.
Cool.
Yeah, he did a lot of political work too. But anyway, so it's for me, it's so close to have, a composer in the family. It's so important for him to share this
Yeah.
music. It's got to be known.
I'm happy you can relate. Yeah, I agree. When I was a bit younger, I started writing down as much as I could remember of his songs, like just so I wouldn't lose it or so that he wouldn't forget himself, because I don't think he plays them as often anymore if I'm not around. But now it's funny, just this is just for you. Yeah, not long ago, basically what happens is my boyfriend and I, we travel a lot because our job allows us to do that. And I don't know if you know, there's like pianos in malls and airports. They just kind of plant them everywhere. And every time we pass by one, my boyfriend asks me to play. He loves when I play. He loves when anyone plays. He just loves it. But the last time I sat down to play, I said, well, what do you want me to play? And the song he hummed was one of my dad's songs. So one of the songs that my boyfriend hopes I play is one of Tato's songs.
Oh, lovely. So about traditions, I presume they were all the known Ukrainian traditions around Christmas. The 12 meals.
Yeah, the 12. Yeah, exactly. I don't know for you, but my favorite is oseleci and kutya, which is an unpopular opinion, but I can't wait for. And you know what's interesting is that they sell oseleci at No Frills, and I don't buy them the rest of the year, even though I love them. I have to wait all year just for Christmas to have these. But I could pick some up right now. I don't know why I don't.
Yeah, I do. I don't eat them either anymore.
But they're delicious.
They are delicious. Also with your Inuit family.
The fish.
Yeah, the fish is a total part of the diet.
The smoked Arctic char up north is to die for. It's delicious.
Imagine.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you would like to tell me? I mean, you have such a rich life and a rich heritage on both sides.
I don't think so. I don't think I have anything else to say, but maybe I do. I don't know.
I'm sure you'll think of something after we hang up.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Yeah. So was your mother was totally supportive of your Ukrainian activities?
She was living up north most of the time that I was doing any of these Ukrainian things, so I don't know that she did really have a say, but I think she's not against me being Ukrainian.
So if you don't mind, can I ask how long were your parents together?
Long enough to make me not very long. They I think they stayed together maybe a year after I was born, if that. But they had a pretty rocky relationship. I don't yeah, they weren't together very long. I don't remember them together.
Mhm.
Um, they definitely weren't together by the time I was one.
But you would spend a lot of time with your mother.
No, not
No?
at all. I was with my tata all the time, pretty much. And then I spent chunks of time with my mom, but it was irregular. It wasn't like there was no like 1 week kind of thing. It was she like I said, she was up north most of the time, and I lived in Montreal with Tata. So
But they would see each other now and then.
no, never. If sometimes there were trade-offs, like she would come pick me up and I'd hang out with her for a bit or maybe for a few days. But they no, Tata and Mama had minimal contact. They no, I don't even think I can visualize them having a conversation with each other.
Oh my.
No.
Do you think your brother would be interested in being interviewed?
Oh wow. Maybe. Na żal mi brat is not who he once was. He's quite ill in a
Oh,
lot of ways now, mostly mentally.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's yeah, there's not much we can do right now, but I think in theory, yes, but I don't think that you'd be talking to the version of him that I know best.
Oh, it's so sad.
It is sad, yeah.
But he's doing music?
No, Andri was never super musical. He was as musical as a bedtime song, but he's no, he's not very
You
musical.
said, so who was the choir conductor?
Tato, Tato.
As a doctor as well? He was a doctor?
Yeah, he does it. Yeah, he does it all.
Amazing.
Yeah.
He travels and he's writing and he's singing to you.
Yeah, he's the one who was teaching at the university in View. He's a jack of all trades.
So he was teaching French.
Yeah, teaching French.
Mhm.
Yeah, his French is probably better than mine, and I live in Quebec and grew up in Quebec. But no, my brother, he's very athletic, or at least he was. Um, that was his life, was hockey. His main event was hockey.
Now, you mentioned you're reluctant to speak about your grandfather and how he arrived in Canada. Is that
Yeah,
something, is that something you would consider talking about?
I would absolutely. I just want to make sure, like he's passed away.
Hmm.
I just don't know how sensitive of a topic it is for my tato and for my tiotia, his kids. So if I check with them, they might say that's fine, I think at this point, but I also wouldn't want to tell the story just the way I remember it. I would want to tell it the way it really was. But there are a lot of speed bumps on his way to Canada that I think are fascinating.
Hmm.
But I know that definitely when he was alive, like it was not something we talked about because it was a sensitive topic.
Yeah, because it's interesting to know your background. That's a very important part of your background,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
ancestral background, and also for Ukrainian history in terms of immigration to Canada and the needs for people to immigrate. And, you know,
I think
there,
I think the best person to talk about Dido's voyage here would be my tata. He's the one who remembers stories the best. Like even my tata, sometimes we tell her stuff. That's Oksana, and she's kind of like, "Oh, really? Is that how it went?" Like she's not huge on like writing the details down. I don't think, but she knows it's true. But my tata, he's like, it's written in stone in his head.
yeah, it would be important to have for history, you know.
Yeah,
So if you could ask him and,
absolutely.
I could speak to him or, Pani Winnicka, who is really the kind of overseer of this whole project. You know, she could speak to him,
Sure, yeah.
the PhD in I'm not sure exactly, probably Ukrainian literature.
Ooh, cool.
And she's from Montreal, actually. The Vinitsky
Yeah. The vineyards are from here.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, just run it by him and,
Sure.
you know, he can look at this website and, you know, decide if, I mean,
Yeah, I think he would say yes. Okay, well, it was super nice meeting all of you.
yep.
Дякую, дякую дуже, Dorothy.
Вам дякую. Bye.
Па-па.